I truly believe this to be the most overlooked and underloved smartphone ever, and it's seemingly lost to time, despite only being released less than 3 years ago. It's a bargain in the used market if you're after something beefy. It has great software support, pretty solid hardware, and tremendous cameras, and in truth, I just wanted an opportunity to talk about it, so here we are. This is the Google Pixel 7 Pro, and it's the awkward middle child in all of the Pixel devices. Its predecessor marked an important and pivotal momentum shift to the high-end premium Pixels that we've all become used to today, and its successor brought some much needed improvements and refinements, both physically in the hand and also under the bonnet. But this, a very well balanced smartphone that costs less than a new pair of Pixel Buds Pro 2, is the ugly duckling, or the black sheep of the family. And I don't think that's really fair. By the way guys, really trying to hit 150k by the end of the year, so if you wouldn't mind subscribing, that'd mean a lot. Cheers. I mean, just look at this thing. Sure, it's absolutely huge like most flagship smartphones these days, but it looks and feels so good with its slick curved sides and a proper camera visor on the back. I always found that the 6s was just a little bit nicer to look at, but I still like the 7s. And I must say, this looks properly classy as well, especially in this sort of black and silver combo that I have here. I know people all seem to hate any kind of curved-sided smartphones these days, but I don't. They look futuristic and classy. They help this mammoth phone feel remotely ergonomic in your hand, and that's just not something that you get with a flat-sided behemoth. Well, most of which we have these days. The Pixel 9 Pro XL is an absolute beast, and it doesn't feel nearly as easy to hold and use as the subtly tapered Pixel 7 Pro. And speaking of the latest Pixel, this camera system really isn't that far away in terms of hardware. The primary and telephoto sensors here are the same, albeit with smaller maximum apertures on the lenses compared to the latest models. It's still a very comprehensive camera system, and almost all the mod cons that you'd expect are all here, maybe minus ADME, something that might sway you, but it certainly doesn't sway me. The Pixel has always been good as a point and click machine, something that can reliably capture whatever you're trying to remember. Moving subjects, high contrast scenes, low light. The Pixel is generally pretty good at these things. It's just not the best at absolutely everything, and I'd say that these photos captured on the 7 Pro don't look massively out of place a couple of years later. These sensors and lenses, thanks to the Pixel not really having evolved in the last couple of generations, especially in hardware I'd say, still feel pretty up to date and are able to capture great quality imagery, especially when you factor in the Pixel 7 Pro is a sub £200 device. Which leads us on to why this affordable smartphone is very often overlooked. That's what's powering this thing, Google's second generation Tensor SoC. Compared to its Snapdragon equivalent, well, the G2 was always a step or maybe even 2 steps behind. It was slower, it ran less efficiently, and so heat was a particular problem, and somehow gave the 5000 mAh battery a hard time, getting some power users through a full day, but often not. I think there's a particular way of looking at these issues. On a $1,000 brand new phone, unacceptable. But on a device that costs less than a pair of true wireless buds, maybe for someone who isn't going to absolutely hammer the phone, who just wants a dependable good phone, the G2 is good enough. Like, if you're similar to me and you do a fair amount of messaging and Googling, maybe a bit of Gemini, but not much in the way of watching content on your phone, your brightness levels are between 50 and 75%, and you're mostly on Wi-Fi with little LTE or 5G usage, then this phone is a comfortable all-dayer, even for me. Even the fact that it's an over 2-year-old battery going on 3 years now. This was never for enthusiasts, and so after a couple of years of degradation, that story was never gonna change. And though I lament Google for using outdated charging speeds in its flagship phones these days, once again the price has to be taken into consideration here, and for something like this on the used market, I really don't have nearly the amount of grumbles I do on when this was £1,000. But the fact I'm making excuses for the 7 Pro should really give you an idea of why this phone gets overlooked and forgotten in the first place. And it's talking about the Tensor generation of pixels. I think it's unfair on this particular phone, but certainly understandable. There are 3 reasons why I hold this phone in such high regard outside of the obviously pretty affordable price these days. and they each come together to deliver a phone that is genuinely very nice to use. The display is fantastic. I'm of the opinion that curved displays, when done right, are the superior way, and I know that that's not a popular opinion on the internet at the moment. From the second I tried my mate's Galaxy S6 Edge back in the day, I knew this is what I wanted, and the way Google nailed the form factor on the 6 Pro and the 7 Pro makes both of these phones feel futuristic, sure, but they also just straight up feel more luxurious than the ones with flat sides. This curves and molds to your hand way more naturally than a blocky flat-sided slab would. One of the major reasons I still use a OnePlus 12 isn't just the performance or the battery life or maybe even the cameras, but the fact that it's just still nice to hold. It is far easier to use such a big phone like that when it's curved on the edges versus its modern equivalents. The Pixel 7 Pro's panel itself is also great. Maybe its biggest pitfall is it doesn't reach the dazzling peak brightness points of the screens that you'll find on the current generation Pixels, but that shouldn't put you off because it's sharp, it's slick, the colour tonality is very well judged, and since it has a ginormous screen, if you are the sort to watch content on your phone, you'll feel right at home here. Honestly, I love the way this screen is, and I love the way that the screen and the chassis in particular come together. But the cherry on top has to be the software. Not only is it due another 3 major platform upgrades, taking the model all the way to Android 18 eventually, but the quality of that software is sublime, and I think once Google implements its new Material 3 Expressive in stable public software, it's gonna make the aesthetic of the Pixel 7 Pro even more pronounced. I'm a big fan of that update, so check out my video on Android Police if you want to learn more about it, by the way. You don't have to worry about compatibility or security for another 3 years on a phone that is going to turn 3 this year already. And for the money, it is really hard to grumble with what Google is able to offer on its long-term Pixel devices. But perhaps there's something more to this whole thing, to why the 7 Pro isn't ridiculously out of date. And I think that comes down to the fact that the newer devices aren't leagues ahead of it. Don't get me wrong, if you are a Pixel 9 Pro fan, well, I think that phone is fantastic and I would agree with you on that. Brilliant smartphones, and if you upgraded from the 7 Pro to the 9 Pro, you'd get a nice bump. But it's not the groundbreaking leap that I think should be expected for cutting edge Android phones, and that's a real shame if you ask me. The Pixel 6 Pro was a genuine momentum shift for Google and the genesis of its in-house silicon. The 8 Pro offered considerably better internals and a new shape, and the 9 Pro refined everything to make Tensor viable for the mainstream. It's a crying shame people overlook the 7 Pro. Though it might be the 4th best Pixel of the Tensor era, it's certainly no bad phone. The Pixel 7 Pro is one of the best deals on the used market right now and has been unfairly cast aside as a forgotten flagship. Maybe it's more a hidden gem for a now really affordable price, but I'll let you decide that.